So, Michelle, lots of headlines on what they're doing, close contacts, flights, etc., and quarantines. Just tell us the big headlines that are going to matter the most.
The biggest thing that's happening here is this shows that China is going to ease up on COVID-0, which is what everyone has been waiting for. Investors, traders, the people on the ground. China is the only place in the entire world that has been trying to get COVID entirely wiped out. It had a zero tolerance policy. Everyone has been screaming for years that it is not going to work. And finally, China seems to be doing a little bit of throwing in the towel, acknowledging the reality of the science, that COVID is here to stay, and that they're trying to figure out a way to go forward and live with that. That is a fundamental mammoth shift for China, and it's going to shake everything going forward for the markets, for the people on the ground. At this point, very early days, what they're doing is they're easing quarantine. They are cutting flight bans. They're going to be letting people in more quickly. They're telling local officials on the ground to not be as aggressive, don't test as much as they were. And most importantly, they are acknowledging the fact that there will be changes going forward here.
Michelle, I mean, how do we sort of square this narrative with the fact that COVID cases are picking up in China? Are we starting to head towards a world where, you know, much like other countries where it's things like hospitalizations matter more, maybe not the individual cases?
Right. What a great question. That is certainly what everybody is expecting at this point, that there will be some kind of a change towards that, because as you point out, the numbers are over 10,000 in China, which seems like a ridiculously low number to the rest of the world, but it has not been this high in months, not since all of Shanghai was entirely locked down, where people could not leave their apartments in order to try to get COVID under control. It is that bad again. We're getting to that level of increasing cases in China, and the winter is just starting. So the fact that they're doing this easing now really indicates that they are going to be looking to something different in the future. It's a great question, though. At some point, if we start seeing, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 cases a day, which is entirely possible, will they change their mind? We don't know. We did get a list of the 20 measures that they're looking for. Some of those measures include adding hospital rooms and stockpiling medicines. So they are expecting things to get real.
It's interesting that the language that they use is that the COVID policy would only be fine-tuned in the short term, with a focus on shifting between eliminating cases and making more precise measures. And of course, this is the key, which is, if this is the incremental step, I know that you said the risk is that they could explode in terms of the number of cases. But Michelle, from an economic point of view, if this is an incremental and a small fine-tuning, we could see a great deal more happen, but that's going to involve a lot more about vaccination, isn't it?
Absolutely. The vaccination policy, China did great in the very beginning with vaccines, but their vaccines are less potent than others. And it has been, mainly most people, it's been more than a year since they've been vaccinated. And we know that that immunity wanes over time. So how much protection they're going to get from that isn't really clear. We do know that they are going to be more strict when it comes to specific targeted measures. They did say that they want people to officials to act more quickly, to lock down harder, to take aggressive action in smaller measures in hopes of averting longer term, wider damage. But how it's going to play out exactly, we just don't know.